Did he lose interest, or is it just this? Today, we're going to get inside a man's head. Ladies, when a man cancels a date for various reasons in the early stages of the dating process, it can be rather annoying. It can be rather frustrating. It can be rather downright nerve-wracking. The first few weeks of getting to know another person is very delicate. It is complicated. And as I said, downright nerve-wracking. And there's nothing more frustrating when a man cancels a date, rejects us, or even loses interest. So we're going to dive into this today, and I'm actually going to be sharing some personal experiences, and you're going to want to stick to the end of this because you're going to understand how our shadow works against us in the dating, mating, relating experience. And the shadow are those places within us. Sometimes it's called the dark side. Sometimes it's called the shadow. It's our subconscious that rules our mind. And oftentimes our subconscious is making choices for us that our cognitive mind doesn't do. And I'm going to share something very personal to illustrate this. In fact, I'm going to share what I'm about to share might shed light into how many men's minds work when they're able to unpack what goes on inside. So many of you know that I've been back in the dating marketplace. My significant relationship ended. A woman I was in relationship for 1.5 years ended about 1.5 years ago. And I took about 6 months off and wasn't really actively dating. And even when I began, it was very just testing the waters, putting myself out there. And I would actually say it's only been in the last few months that I've actually been actively in the dating marketplace. When I say actively, I've been on the dating apps, I've connected with people, and I've had a few dates. And I want to share 2 particular stories that illustrates this, what goes inside a guy's head, because it might help you understand, and maybe even for yourself, understand how your subconscious might be sabotaging circumstances in your life. So about 3 weeks ago, at the time I'm airing this, actually, let me rewind. Prior to the holidays, so we're in mid-January right now, but prior to the holidays, I'd connected with 2 women through my social media. Now, one I happen to know through a professional circumstance where we connected a couple years ago, and another woman who's mutual friends with people I know, and we connected on social media. In fact, I'll be candid with you. Well, technically both Facebook and Instagram. So I guess Meta was how I connected with them. And with one of the women, in both cases, when I connected with them, it was strictly to meet in a friendship capacity, not necessarily a date, even though I had interest, kind of had interest from a romantic perspective. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this is, roughly about 65% of all new relationships, all couples today meet through some sort of online experience, whether it's a dating app, whether it's social media. I wouldn't count Meetup as an online experience, but certainly those happens as well. But for the most part, a significant percentage of people are meeting online. And I know many of you are very frustrated with online. This is why I kind of wonder if social media might start shifting that, because in this particular case, in both cases, these were people that there was at least 1 degree of separation. In other words, we knew people that knew each other. It didn't feel like a total stranger. Okay, so let me fast forward. On a Sunday, I met a woman for lunch. And we had a very nice lunch, and we had a very good time. Now, keep in mind, I said we knew each other from a professional experience, and we had a very nice lunch, and there was no expectations. There was a challenge, which I'll share in a moment. But coincidentally, I had another date the following day. You might have heard me say that I was heading out for a date a few weeks ago. Well, that was the one I was talking about. And with this person, she lived literally a mile away from me. We were able to connect at a local place. We were actually surprised that neither one of us had been there. Okay. And we had a very nice time. And we had talked about getting together the next night. And this is what I'm about to share with you. What happened inside my head that could have created, or that did create, significant confusion. Okay, so now I have, and by the way, many of you know I'm not a believer of dating one person or dating more than one person at a time. Now, if you want to know the way my mind works, is when you meet someone the first time, I call that a meeting. Okay, when you meet someone the first time, that's a meeting. When you meet them a second time, that's a follow-up meeting. Okay. Now, the reason why I call meeting is when you're meeting a total stranger, someone you really don't know, you've never met them before. That's why I call them meetings, because when we take the word date out of the equation, we can take away a lot of expectations, a lot of frustration. Like and I said in both cases to them, hey, let's just meet as two people meeting as friends without the pretense, without the expectations. Now, in both cases, I did pick the place. And in both cases, I actually offered to pay. When I even said to them both, is it okay with you that I treat? Okay. Now, part of that is because it's such a traditional expectation, not that I necessarily believe it's a man's responsibility to do that. And we can have a whole conversation about that, but I don't want to get into the particulars. In these two cases, it was a meeting. So I said the first meeting is a meeting. The second meeting is a follow-up meeting. If you meet someone a third time, that's a date. And if you meet them a fourth time, that's the second date. And in my opinion, from that point forward, if you're interested in getting to know this person, then keep it to one person at a time. I believe it is so convoluted to try to connect with multiple people at the same time. It can be, in some cases, very disingenuous if one person, and mind you, if you're the person dating multiple people at the same time and they're dating multiple people at the same time, it's going to be a mismatch of trying to connect with people. But Jonathan, all the dating coaches tell me we need to be duty dating, we need to be circularly dating so we don't get attached to the wrong person. Folks, if you have a propensity to get attached to the wrong person, dating multiple people isn't going to solve that. Let me repeat that. If you have a propensity to get attached to the wrong person, dating multiple people doesn't solve that. All it does is confuse the dating process. And remember, as I said in the beginning of this conversation, getting to know another person is a very complicated, delicate, and downright nerve-wracking experience. So don't add to the equation by adding multiple people, multiple emotions into the equation. Okay, so I had my first date, or I had my first meeting with woman A, and I had my second meeting, or my first meeting with woman B, and we had talked about getting together the next day. And here is where the dilemma, the crash, the burn happened. I woke up the next morning, and for whatever reason, I didn't feel comfortable meeting woman B the following day. And I'm going to get into the reasons why in a moment. But what happened next is I sent a message pretty much canceling meeting. And I'll be candid with you, it was a subconscious sabotage, which I'm about to explain because this is the nitty-gritty of this conversation, how we men or women subconsciously sabotage circumstances, okay? So I'm going to tell you, at the moment I sent the sabotaging message, at the time, I didn't really understand what was going on inside of me. I just knew I needed to cancel or to, well, actually my subconscious says sabotage, sabotage, sabotage. And sure enough, the message I sent, which was very cryptic, very meandering, because I was experiencing a variety of different emotions, okay? And she messaged me and we ended up having a phone call later that day. And we talked about it. And what happened in that conversation is what I'm about to share with you today. So, which can happen when men meet you for a first time, a second time, or a third time. So what I'm going to share with you, so the title is, did he lose interest or did this happen? Okay. In both cases, I didn't lose interest with either woman. Okay. I didn't lose interest, but I will tell you, my subconscious was sabotaging it. Now, before I get into the details and what I'm about to share, ever since this happened, I've been reading a fascinating book called Existential Kink by Carolyn Elliott. Existential Kink by Carolyn Elliott. And the subtitle is, Unmask your shadow and embrace your power. Unmask your shadow, embrace your power. This is a fascinating book to understand how our subconscious can sabotage things within our lives. So what happened with woman B was, it was kind of interesting because she knew it, both women knew about me publicly, but there was something that she said during our conversation that triggered me. Now, what happens is a lot of time, because we were going in as a meeting, it wasn't a date per se. I can be very jovial. I can be very authoritative in my professional life. And I felt like in a moment, and she didn't do this, but this is what I felt. I was being used. I felt I was being used. Now, in all fairness to her, that's not what was happening. But in that moment, I felt that. And men oftentimes feel used by women. They sometimes feel like they're used for a free meal. I'm going to tell you, that's something that a lot of men experience. But they can feel, by the way, ladies, you can feel used by a man as well. So just so you know, this is a very common experience. This experience of maybe being used. And in all fairness to her, that's not what was happening, but that's what my subconscious was saying to me. Now, partially, you need to understand something, ladies. I get, because of my public notoriety, I get a lot of people demanding my time for free. I get lots of requests for free advice, free advice, free advice, free advice. And there's a point where it's like, look, I do it through my YouTube videos. I do it through other sources. But when people write me privately, there are times when I just feel used by people. I'm sure you felt that way in your own life. It could be family members. It could be other people in your life. So it's just a common experience that I was feeling, but that was a script that was going on inside of me, a script, a story. See, that's what your subconscious does. It makes up a story. It takes one experience and changes it and twists it to fit a narrative of what was already a script inside of me of being used. Now, another reason why I sabotaged this potential second date was because, honestly, I had a date with another woman, and I was I was like tossing it in my head. This is one of the reasons why I don't believe in dating two people at the same time. But it just happened to be a coincidence that it happened this way. I had been just connecting in friendship capacity with two women, but there was another woman in my consciousness, and it was kind of fucking with me a little bit. Because I liked both people. Ladies, how many times have you found yourself in a circumstance, or how many men find themselves in circumstances because of dating apps where we could be communicating with multiple people at the same time and we can get confused? Is this one better? Is this one right for me? Is this one better? Is this one right for me? Is this one better? Is this one right for me? Or do they like me? Do they like me? Do they like me? So I had this script going on inside my head. Now, there's another script that was going on inside my head. And I'm going to talk about my shadow, my wounds in a moment. But this came up during this conversation because with woman B, we had a lifestyle difference. She lives a much more affluent, successful life than me. And I had a script that I'd be rejected because I don't have the same affluence. I don't have the same bank account. I don't have the same wealth as her. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment because this is a very deep script or wound within my life. And then lastly, why I sabotaged this is because I was afraid she was going to bail on me. And it was a preemptive strike that I struck and canceled this. Or cancel this because I was afraid she was going to cancel on me. Now, let me just explain something. These weren't in my cognitive thoughts. These were subconscious thoughts. I was unaware of these until I was able to, because I didn't fully process it when I sent the message. And my message was rather passive aggressive. I'll be candid with you. It wasn't one of my best messages. I just knew I needed to run. I needed to escape. I needed to, pull away. And I couldn't tell you why in the moment. This is why I wrote this cryptic, sabotaging, passive aggressive message. Now, when we had a chance to speak, I was able to give her some insight into this, but I hadn't fully processed it. Now, I happen to be an introspective person. Ladies, not all men are introspective like this. Men experience all kinds of emotions, and they're sometimes unaware of how their subconscious conflicts with their conscious mind, and are scripts that go on in the background with any forethought of what's happening. In my particular case, I have some deep wounds that I'm still working on and processing, which I'll share with you in today. Now, what happened with woman A, just to give you some closure to this, we met up again and we talked, and we realized that we happen to live 45 miles away. Her lifestyle is completely different than mine. The things I'm into are different than the things she's into. So we agreed not to pursue anything. And we had a very nice conscious uncoupling of the meetings. And it was very nice, and we're going to still remain social media friends and that sort of thing. Woman B, however, reached out to me over the weekend. This was after I had time to process what had come up for me, because I'd been reading the book Existential Kink. By the way, all the books I recommend are listed below under Jonathan Recommends Books. As I was able to process my subconscious, I recognized that I have 3 gigantic wounds. And this might be similar for a lot of people out there. As I've been able to unpack what was going on. Why did I have this script of being used? Why did I have this, this fear about, another person? Why did I have this fear about where I am financially in my life? And I could be rejected. See, I have a core wound that I'm incompetent. Many of you know I've shared this story before. I was actually tested at a very high IQ when I was younger, but my 3rd grade teacher told the classroom I was stupid. And I will tell you, this is a deeply, deeply ingrained wound within me, that I lack competence. I get up every day shooting live videos, recording, doing things that requires a significant amount of competence. However, I have a script going on inside my subconscious that says you're not worthy, you're not competent, you're not good for anybody. And believe me, my conscious mind wrestles with my subconscious. Many of us have scripts or wounds that are running in the background of our subconscious mind that affects our love life. And that happens to be one of them. One of my second core wounds is that in 2008, when I lost my high-end corporate job, I was going through a divorce, and I got wiped out in the market crash of 2008 and 2009. I was deeply wounded from a financial perspective. And I have this gigantic wound around money. I have a wound around money. Am I capable of taking care of someone? Here in the United States, roughly 80% of the population basically doesn't even have 1 year's savings in the bank to cover them if they lost a job. And roughly about 2/3, I believe, live paycheck to paycheck or don't have even a year's savings in the bank. When you get to midlife, our capacity to generate resources and the amount of money we have to support us to retire can be a very scary thing for a significant percentage of the population. And I'm going to tell you something. We men have this ongoing script that it's our responsibility. And for many men on a subconscious level, they might sabotage a relationship because they have fear around this experience. I know many of you aren't. Now, again, this isn't cognitive. This isn't in the forefront of our minds. This is the subconscious that can affect our decision making and make poor choices, like sabotaging a second meeting with somebody. And then there's an interesting new wound I've discovered within myself, and I'm sure many of you are experiencing the same thing, is that being single sometimes feels better than the effort it takes to put yourself on the firing line of being in the dating process. Let me tell you something, dating and relationships is not for the faint of heart. And many of you might appreciate what I'm about to say, but there's a part of me that prefers being single. There's a part of me that prefers being single because I get to be in charge of my life. I don't have to necessarily be emotionally responsible for another human being. And while we all, and I'm sure I can speak for myself, I genuinely want to be loved. And I'm sure many of you feel the same way. You want to give and receive love. There might be a core wound I think many people in the United States are experiencing, where being single actually feels better than or at least the idea of it feels better than being in relationship. So as I share the granular experiences of all of this, the idea is to help you recognize that in many cases, in both cases, I didn't lose interest. And by the way, woman B, I'm meeting her again this week. We agreed that we ended up having a chat. We unpacked all of this. She found it fascinating. And she said, I completely understand where you're coming from. Now, I'm blessed that I'm introspective enough to unpack all the nooks and crannies of how the subconscious was affecting what happened. And thankfully, she gave me a bit of grace. And whether we're a fit for each other, we don't know. In fact, we're just meeting a second time just to spend a little bit of time together, no expectations. The understanding is sometimes we don't lose interest. Sometimes our subconscious, our shadow, is driving the bus in the way we operate, whether you're a man or a woman. And I'm just here to say that sometimes when we judge or criticize someone's actions, and I'm grateful she didn't overreact to my cryptic, sabotaging text message. She had the wherewithal to go a little bit deeper. And I'm getting a chance to see her again. And I'm looking forward to it. So, kind of to recap all of this, believe it or not, we human beings are very complicated, very delicate. We can be nerve-wracking, and certainly the getting to know you process is not for the faint of heart. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know if it is. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that little notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, hey, there's a link right here to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery listed below. There's a link to follow me on Instagram to get all the books I recommend, to even get my dating vows, all listed below. All right. Those who know my live format know it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, write the word question. There's a little chat box in the corner. Write the word question and then post the question there after. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to there's a little dollar sign in the chat box. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's a picture of him with his brother, Colin. He's my son who passed away over 6 years ago. And in his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process Insight Institute and scholarships to coaching as well. And listen, I'd appreciate, since I went very vulnerable today, I'd appreciate some love. $50 is what our goal is tonight. I'd appreciate some love for the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund. All right, who's going to be brave enough to join the love seat? I'd really appreciate it. Oops. All right, let's see what we've got here. Oh, and here's a link to, hey, if someone wants to join the love seat, I just posted a link right there. You can join me live and we can talk about how the subconscious or our shadow can affect our love life. Moonchild is in the house. Question, I don't have a pot to piss in either. Why should it matter instead of blaming ourselves about our politicians? So you, along with roughly 2/3 of the population, is living either paycheck to paycheck or doesn't have enough money to support themselves. This is one of the benefits of human pair bonding, is two people can live better than one. So I mean, to answer your question, I mean, first off, blaming politicians is a waste of energy and a waste of time. And by the way, folks, if I didn't say this, I'm actually a very successful business professional. It's just I happen to live in one of the rich, expensive zip codes in the world. And I'm not necessarily the rich person on the block, so to speak. But I don't believe in blaming anyone. We can take responsibility for our lives. So thank you, Moonchild, for that question. Poultry Flowers is in the house. Jonathan, do you think you might be a fearful avoidant? I am clearly an anxious preoccupied. I tend to I lose my mind if someone doesn't send a text message right away. I don't believe I'm not worthy. I mean, I have abandonment, rejection issues. The truth is, fear, everyone has fear. Okay. Most people have an insecure attachment style, whether it's avoidant or anxious. It really doesn't matter. It's just, I have fear. I have wounds that I've been working on deeply, deeply, deeply in my life. That's why I picked up this book, because I want to embrace the shadow, and I want to embrace this. What the heck is self-love anyway? A journey of personal development, self-help, and spiritual work. Link below to get a copy of my books. My whole goal is to my subconscious finds radical ways to love myself. I think that's what's really going on. But fear is just very common for everybody. Susan Quinn is in the house. Thank you for being so candidly introspective about your personal life. It's very helpful and heartwarming. Thank you, Susan. Can I give you a big hug if you're the Susan? My friend Susan in Las Vegas, thank you so much. Let me know if that's the Susan I'm speaking to. All right. Question from CA. If a man cannot accept love and devotion as more important than money, what's the exchange for love? If a man can't accept love and devotion men on some level have been conditioned that our worth is centered around our capacity to generate resources. And for some people, their libido is tied into their financial world. I would venture to say a lot of men experience that. A lot of men. Their purpose exceeds their capacity. Their purpose, power-driven purpose, exceeds their capacity to accept love and devotion. There's not really a question there, CA. You just made a statement, but I would venture to say, depending on what your question is, I'm going to say that what's the exchange for love? Those people, men or women, by the way, this is true for women as well. They have a very difficult time actually engaging in a heart-centered, emotional, spiritual relationship with somebody. They might be able to intellectually and physically be in a relationship, but they have a very difficult time to emotionally and spiritually engage in a relationship. Okay, CA, thank you so much. Barb says, would you ever consider going offline altogether and try meeting someone organically? Every spoke in the wheel. Every spoke in the wheel is available to me. In my world, I do my best organically. I do my best online. I do my best through friends, fix-ups, that sort of thing. Keep in mind that nowadays 65% of all couples are meeting through an online connection. But no, I definitely believe in every spoke in the wheel. Okay. Hey, I want to thank Neutralize for the $10 super sticker. Thank you for the love. We appreciate it. Maureen says, nice to see that you're okay from all the fires. Yes, I was blessed. Sadly, many friends of mine, unfortunately, did lose their homes. So a lot of love goes out to them as well. Necropencer Caesar. Hello, Jonathan. If a woman ghosts you after everything is going great, is that just her fear? If she mentions she's been hurt in the past, should I go pursue or let go? You know, ghosting usually is a fear of confrontation, a fear of, and sometimes the motive behind the ghosting isn't clear. It's a subconscious sabotage. Okay. Now, should I pursue or let it go? You can certainly pursue clarity. You can certainly ask questions. I wouldn't pursue her, but I would certainly pursue clarity if it's possible. But It depends on how often you saw each other, what was the initial investment with each other. If she mentions she's been hurt in the past, then the follow-up question is, what have you done to heal your past? If she's done little or no healing, that she's going to hurt people will hurt people, folks. We've all been hurt, okay? Can we take ownership of our hurt? See, that's the difference. In the particular case with the woman I sent the sabotaging text message, I didn't ghost or anything. I just pulled back, but I left it open to have a conversation, and we had a conversation. We were able to unpack the granular parts of what caused me initially to pull away. And when I explained it to her, she was very accommodating, very understanding. By the way, folks, I am not here to profess I'm the most evolved man on the planet. Believe me, I'm a guy like everyone else. I'm human, and I'm riddled with flaws, and I've got my wounds. Okay. So thank you for that question. Beach Lover just gave us a $5 super sticker. Healing the event from your childhood school experience is part of the work. Can you forgive and move past the damage, maybe? Folks, we're talking about a Grand Canyon of a wound for me. Have I forgiven the teacher? Absolutely. You know, I'm just here to share. I'm sharing with everybody that there's residue. You know, I mean, it's not like you can, like, I think it's bullshit to go, you can just wave a magic wand and let it go. It's part of who I am. It actually encourages me to strive harder. So all of these wounds have a inverse effect to it. I study, I read, I do lots of things. So that wound, and by the way, folks, I'm willing to share my vulnerability, or I'm willing to share my vulnerability with you. But but there's a fear, because it's almost as if, well, I mean, I'm a human being that has flaws. I'm not perfect, but I want to be, not that Beach Lover, you were throwing it in my face, but just remember, I'm working on this shit. By the way, it might take 40 million lifetimes to heal all this shit. Okay. And I believe we come back and do this over and over again. Okay. Callie Stewart's in the house. Question. Do you think it's two-part, learn to love yourself first and learn to believe and trust another could love you too? I learned self-love and still learning the second. You know, we don't have to necessarily put them in parts. I'm a big proponent of healing our childhood wounds and adult traumas. But healing is an ongoing process. I don't think we ever achieve it until maybe 7 seconds before we die. And then when we come back and do this over again. But yes, I'm a big proponent of doing the inner work. So here's the thing, coming back to what I experienced. Because I was introspective, I was able to have a conversation with woman B as to what was going on. And we had she was very grateful. She's like, oh my God, you're unlike any other man I've ever met. You actually understand your emotions, your feelings, your actions. You know, sure, I acted like a bonehead in a moment. Everybody can, but I actually understand why. So I'm just a big proponent of the healing is an ongoing process. Okay. By the way, folks, I'm grateful I get to live a life of introspection. I think it's rather fun to be able to identify your subconscious and go, holy shit, you're running the show. Holy shit, you're being judgmental in this moment. Holy shit, you're feeling ashamed in this moment. Holy shit, you have resentments in this moment, and you can take ownership of your experience. I think that's a blast, to live a life of self-awareness, of introspection, of being able to call yourself out on your shit. Most human beings walk with a mask on, in a delusion or illusion of what life is. I think the real fun is getting into the nooks and crannies of emotions and feelings and understanding why we operate the way we do. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents there. I hope it made sense. Beach Lover says there's no magic wand. That's why it's work. Yes, I understand completely. Thank you so much. Oh. Moonchild says, you know what? I've been meaning to do my Akashic records. I've done everything from human design to Vedic astrology. I've done it all. Rachel says, amen, Jonathan. Thank you so much. Someone want to join me on the love seat? I'd love to have a conversation with someone live. Jess just said, I just started reading Attached. Can't wait to learn. There's 3 books I want you to read, Jess, besides Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. I invite you to read Wired for Love, everybody, by Dr. Stan Tatkin. I had him as a guest on. And we're going to talk about love attachment again later in the next month. And Wired for Love by Thais Gibson. These are great books to understand why we operate, why we get insecurely attached to a person. Okay. JVW says, today I listened to a clinical psychologist. She taught how to recognize insanity. Very important. You don't have to be a psychiatrist. Safety first. You know, it's interesting, folks. My son, Colin, right there, has applied for his doctorate in psychology. He wants to become a clinical psychologist. Can we root Colin on? In fact, any donation tonight to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund, I'm going to donate to Colin's education fund. Costs a lot of money to become a doctor. He's going to be on a 5-year program to become a clinical psychologist. So we could give some love to hit that little $sign and donate tonight. I'd really appreciate the love for my son. Beach Lover says, wow, Colin, we're proud of you. Oh, thank you. Beach Lover also says Attached is so good. I agree. Rachel, insecurely attached. Yep. Oh my God. Help me. Help me. LOL. LOL. Katerina says, no lie. Those eureka moments are amazing. You know, it's interesting. As I started to examine what happened when I sabotaged woman B, you know, as soon as I sent the message and then read it later, I'm like, oh man, I acted like such an idiot. I beat myself up. Incompetence, coming back to this belief that I'm incompetent, that I wasn't, you know, mature, that I'm supposed to be, you know, I've got enough pressure because I'm supposed to be this sophisticated, you know, dating and relationship coach who totally has his act together. That's another script that plays in my life, that I've got to live up to this reputation. And I'm just a regular human being who's riddled with, you know, dare I say faults or flaws, you know. But I'm grateful that I was able to really get into the nook and cranny of what my subconscious was actually doing in this particular case. And my hope is this conversation has opened you up to do the same work for yourself. This takes ninja level work. And I invite you all to read that book, Existential Kink. You're going to learn a lot about how your subconscious can sabotage your life. Rachel just gave us a $7 super sticker. Thank you for the love. It means we got $28 more to go. Marianne says, I listen and watching you, but I'm not interested in a relationship. Bravo to your son. You know, it fascinates me how many people watch my stuff and they're not even interested in dating or relationships. Trista's in the house. Question, heard another coach say singleness isn't something that needs to be fixed. Your thoughts? So you know what's fascinating to me, Trista? Joe Dispenza just did a video, why women are happier being alone. Why women are happier being alone. I don't think there's anything wrong with being single. There's nothing wrong with it. I do believe that it could be that we're attached to singleness out of a fear too. Let me tell you something. Dating or relationships is not for the faint of heart. You're going to be pressed up against your shit, just like what I'm dealing with right now. So, but there is nothing wrong with any person who doesn't choose to be mated, and there's certainly not wrong. You know, those people that are mated miserably, you know, there's nothing wrong with them. It just happens to be our experience. Noreen just gave us a super sticker. I have been way your videos, reading the books, and your comments. I finally saw light. I'm no lingerie long distance relationship. Noreen, thank you so much for that sweet comment. We appreciate you. Emma says, good luck on your second date. Okay, you deserve it, Jonathan. Okay, really quick. It's not a second date. It's a second meeting. Okay, just to remind you, here's my rule of thumb. Okay, the first time you meet someone is a meeting. The second time you meet them, it's a follow-up meeting. If you meet them a third time, that's a first date. And if you meet them a second time, that's a second date. And if you continue dating them, meeting them after that, or seeing them after that, my suggestion is you take all other people off the table and focus on one person at a time. The first time it's a meeting, the second time's a follow-up meeting. Sandy just wants to publicly say, I love Joe Dispenza. I do too. I find him very fascinating. He has some great meditations too. I love some of his meditations. Who wants to join me on the hot seat or love seat? I'd love to have someone to chat with right now. I just posted a link. I just slobbered all over my face. Okay. Let's see. Come on, give me some love. I need some. Oh, here we go. Rachel's in the house. You have your camera on, Rachel. Rachel, put
Hi
your
there. I'm turning it on.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to turn it on.
Do I have to kick you out and start again?
Hold on. It says browser has lost connection to your camera. Make sure there are no other apps. Should I turn off the YouTube while I'm running the?
Yeah, you should turn off YouTube.
All right, 1 second.
Okay.
Well, I can't because then I won't. Oh, it's not working. Is it okay if it just goes like this?
It's okay. We won't see
no?
you. Okay, let's go ahead and begin.
I'll try to figure it out, but I just want to say thank you so much for everything you're doing, and especially the lives that we can all come together and just vocalize everything that we're experiencing at this dry season of relationship, issues, right?
So are you single?
I am single. I've been single for a very long time, and just coming into healing with myself and getting out of a past narcissistic relationship. But it's definitely taken a long time to heal. But I took myself out on a date Saturday night to this concert, right?
Yeah.
And I went. I saw this artist. His name is Garrett Mason, and I'm from Nova Scotia, Canada, and he's a local artist here. And beautiful man, handsome guy, just like you, tall, dark, handsome.
Oh, thank you. Did you ask him out on a date?
No, I didn't. But the thing is, it's like he's the same. He's like a lone wolf too. And through the whole set, he was saying how he's on his own, and like we're up there. Like I'm in my late 40s, right? So it's like, and all of his songs were based on, like being single, being on your own. And then he had this song that really struck me, and I was by myself, and everyone was together, and they're all talking, and here I am on my own, like a lonesome wolf, right? And this song is called Shine Your Light, Shine Your Light. So it's all about, shining, like I guess he was in love with this woman, and like metaphorically he was like this memory inside of her mind, and he was like, shine the light, and he's like saying, shine the light in the situation, like if I'm an idea in your mind, that once that light is shined, that he will become alive, and his love will start living again, and it just encompassed everything that,
it reminds
I have
me
it on my YouTube.
It reminds me of Cat Stevens. He's now Yusof something or other, but he has a great song called True Love. And it reminds me of that, because when we find both the love in ourselves and the love of humanity and the love of source and spirit, when we can connect within that divine light within ourselves,
Right.
the shadow has no place, it has no space to go. So when I was talking about the shadow, the subconscious,
Right.
that affects our choices. It's interesting because as I was
Yes.
sharing in the
Yes.
video with everybody, how in that moment, my subconscious took over to sabotage. Now, what I didn't share was
Yes.
it was good that the shadow took over, because I needed the shadow so I can pull out the light bulb, so to speak. It
Right. Right.
afforded me an
Right.
opportunity to bring out the light within myself. So on some level, when I
Yes.
sabotaged this
Yes.
experience, it allowed the light within me to shine and to focus on what was really going on, because I liked this person. I didn't want, the
Exactly.
title of this video is, did he
Right.
lose interest or is it this? I liked this person. I
Yeah.
didn't lose interest, but I was feeling fear. I had all these scripts and these wounds that were popping up in my subconscious that was causing my conscious
Oh,
to pull away, but I didn't know
right.
why.
Right.
And oftentimes, at
Right.
least men in the dating, mating, and relating realm will pull away. Sometimes they don't know why. It's just a trigger. It's a reaction to something else
Right.
that's causing them to
Right.
do
Right.
that. So coming back to your point
Right.
about the
Right.
light, I believe
Yes.
we
Yeah.
have the shadow so we can actually allow our light to shine. Hey, Rachel, since you're not able to be
That's
on camera
great.
and everyone can see you, can I give you a
I'm
big,
so
gigantic
sorry.
Jonathan Bear hug of appreciation?
Yes, yes. Next time I'll try to figure it out because it keeps telling me that your browser has lost connection to your camera. Make
Okay.
sure there's no other
Well, I
app.
want to give someone
So
else a
who knows?
chance to come on. So thanks so much.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much. Hugs
Thanks.
to you
Bye-bye
too.
now.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that was sweet of her to come on, folks. It's interesting. As I was sharing a moment ago to Rachel, men sometimes sabotage circumstances because fear, our wounds, our subconscious can take over, because we may not be fully ready, or we may not be ready in that moment. Oftentimes, circumstances are there to benefit us. And actually, this particular circumstance with woman B afforded us an opportunity to actually build a little bit more connection with us, because we work through this little bit of a conflict, this little bit of a, uncertainty. She could have ran away, says, oh my God, this guy's a jackass, I'm going to leave. But there was obviously something there that said, you know what? I'm going to be curious. See, coming back to the person who posted something earlier, sometimes people ghost, disappear, sabotage because a fear just popped up. And all we need is a little bit of trust. So what happened in that conversation with woman B, we built a little bit of trust with each other, and we did a follow-up, and she just texted me, coincidentally, very sweet text message saying she's looking forward to seeing me this week. It's going to be in 2 days. So, and by the way, isn't that sweet? She just reached out to say that. We all need, building trust is like putting together a Lego set. Sometimes it's on a weak foundation. Sometimes if you cover enough pieces around it, you can build a solid base that you can build to the next level, the next level, and the next level. And just as Joe Daisy says, fear kills romance. I don't believe that fear kills romance. I think romance is very dangerous. Romance is dangerous. Romance should be reserved for couples in relationship. What fear does is it kills trust. That's what fear does. It kills trust. And trust is an essential piece of a relationship. Better yet, as you just said here, fear kills connection. That's exactly it. Fear kills connection. So very well done, said. Jane X just said, gave us a $5 super sticker. Thank you for the love. I appreciate that. Rachel wants to say, love is so crazy. LOL. Ain't that the truth? Shirley wants to point out small connections mean a lot. What's interesting about, by the way, with really quickly for woman A, as I want to share with you, we had a very beautiful conscious uncoupling. She's a matter of fact, she commented on one of my Instagram posts right before I got on here. We're going to remain, social media friends. But what's interesting about woman B is that, we have no idea if we're a fit for one another. Listen, folks, I want to be clear. I'm not pursuing a relationship. We haven't established if we're a good fit for one another. But Jonathan, I've been told by all the female energy coaches that I'm supposed to sit back in my feminine energy and let a man lead because men go after what they want. Folks, we go after sex. There's no doubt about it. We men, we're hunters, we're chasers, we're hunters. Are we hunting a relationship or are we hunting sex? When a man is definitive before he knows who you are, before trust has been built, that's usually driven by his penis, okay? It isn't driven by, we can have this amazing experience, but trust takes time to develop with another human being. And you know how trust is built? I got to give a lot of credit to this woman. You know what? She didn't judge me for my comment. She was just curious. She had grace. She was curious, had grace, and she kept open mind. And I'm grateful for that. Okay, let's keep going. Rachel says, it's good to be honest, even if there's all these thoughts of apprehension. You're being your true self. Exactly. Trista says, we have to learn to feel our feelings and work through them. Actually, we always feel our feelings. We have to learn how to identify what we're feeling. That's the key, because we might be feeling our feelings. That's our body is feeling our feelings. Our emotions are feeling its feelings, but actually identifying what those feelings are. A lot of men are deer in the headlights when it comes to their feelings. So first we have to identify our feelings and then being able to, okay, so coming back to what I was sharing, folks, all of these emotions and feelings, I didn't identify where they were coming from. And then I realized I have these deep wounds and scripts that cause me. And by the way, if I end up in a relationship with the woman, this isn't the first time a wound is going to trigger shit. That's what, that's why you have to build trust with one another so you stick it out when we get triggered and shit. Anyway, just something to think about. Conscious uncoupling. Y'all broke up. Well, we didn't break up. We just consciously agreed not to develop a relationship. Maureen says, self-sabotage are often a series of coping mechanisms that we use to deal with stressful situations. Oh my God, very well said. Everybody write that down. Self-sabotage, often a series of coping mechanisms that we use to deal with stressful situations. Exactly. Rachel says, exactly. This is not the first time. What a good point, Jonathan. Thank you. Callie says, matching effort works well for building healthy relationships. I'm grateful that, she sent me a text message saying she's looking forward. She's making effort. I'm making effort. When two people mutually make effort, it builds trust. But Jonathan, all the dating coaches tell me that I'm supposed to just sit back in my feminine energy and men are supposed to do all the texting and all the calling, and that's what they're supposed to do because men are chasers. Doesn't work that way for midlife, folks. Let me tell you that. This is the number one thing to build in relationship is trust. All right. Do we have any questions? Any personal questions you have of me? Ask them now before we get to the close. I need some fodder here. So give me some stuff. Ask me some questions. Maureen says, I have sabotaged myself many times. I get it. All right. I'm going to give it 30 seconds. If you don't throw it. Okay. He's self-sabotaging because he has a lack of mindset about money. No, it's not a lack mindset. It's a belief of it's not a lack mindset. It's a belief I'll be rejected because I'm not rich. That's the belief. It's not that, by the way, I'm actually worth more than 90% of the population. I'm worth 90% of most Americans, or at least in that top category. But there's still this belief that at living in Los Angeles, if you're not rich, you're going to get rejected. I don't know if that's a lack mindset. Did you feel butterflies? Butterflies is an anxious attachment style. No, but I do believe I have interest. Okay. Question, men are chasers. It's disingenuous to give him the appearance that he is Men are chasers. It is disingenuous to give him the appearance that he is chasing. Men chase sex. You're absolutely right. Men are chasers of sex, but they're not chasers of relationships. Just remember that. Do you notice certain behavior etiquette when you're on dates and turn you off? Yeah, resting bitch face is something I don't like, and many of you heard me talk about that. Joe Daisy, that's cute. Can I borrow your shirt? I love to wear a man's shirt, especially if it's black. I have 2 of these exact same theory shirts. Thank you. Is it an inability to be vulnerable? I don't have a problem being vulnerable. The problem with vulnerability is that it's oftentimes equated with weakness. And we men aren't allowed to be weak. We're not allowed to be weak. Hey, it's 55555. Jan X says, question, dating someone 2 months. We haven't kissed yet. Should I make the first move? Abso-fucking-lutely. Give him a kiss if you like him. Moonchild says, try that Orion guy. I know who he is. Rich men are assholes. Women are crazy. Yes. Let's keep going. Oh, Moonchild says, sorry, Jonathan, you're the exception. Thank you so much. Rachel wants to say resting bitch face. Ha, 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 ha. Lucia, wait, excuse me. What do you think about people you get to know and karma? I do believe in certain karma. I do believe that we, I think we attract our experiences to some degree. I mean, I believe in it. Do I wholeheartedly subscribe to it 100%? I don't know, but I do sometimes notice that sometimes I do shit and I go, yep, that was my karma coming out. Power of Cheese says, years ago, I had a coworker that talked shit about her husband every day. One day her called her out on her abuse. She laughed in his face while he cried. She told us she wasn't going anywhere and laughed. Well, that's not cool. All right, this will be our last question of the evening. Any advice on how to help men stand on their decisions? I see a lot of men allowing others to talk them out of what is best for them. Notice this is a business and personal. I've noticed men and women alike don't make a stand for themselves. It's a very common experience. We human beings are here to experience all the different juicy, delicious flavors of emotions and feelings. And sadly, many people are so deeply wounded that they can't make decisions for themselves. Oftentimes we have to fall down so many times before we choose to get up on our own. And some people, they hide through drugs and alcohol because they're in pain. Many people are suffering on the inside because they haven't taken ownership of their lives. And sadly, very little advice. It usually takes a major humbling event before a person begins shifting their life. So there's nothing I can say to change them. They have to want to change within themselves. Okay. Thanks, Trista, for that question. Hey, was this content, did it resonate with you? If it did, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. Also, if you want to connect with me directly, there's links. Hey, link right here to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a links to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery, where you can have direct access to me every day for less than $20 a month. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, get my books I recommend, all listed below. All right, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Barrick of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, pet a teddy bear, a pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Beach Lover and everybody who donated, and Holly Berry and Rachel for being on, and Eleanor and Power of Chi and Moonchild and Trista. Everybody who donated, Eleanor, Janex, Shirley, Lucia, Joe Daisy, Jess, Gigi, Buttercup, everyone, big hugs. Thanks so much. Wishing you all a super duper wonderful evening. Bye now. Bye-bye.